What's up, Purple Faithful? If you're not sitting down right now, you better grab a chair, because what I'm about to drop on you is going to shake the foundation of everything you thought you knew about this Viking season. We're talking about moves that nobody saw coming, decisions that are raising eyebrows across the entire NFL, and updates that could completely change how we look at this team moving forward. I'm talking about a quarterback signing as everyone's scratching their heads. A beloved player making his triumphant return to Minneapolis where we need him most. Injury updates that are both crushing and surprisingly hopeful. And coaching decisions that might just be the difference between salvation and disaster this Sunday against Cincinnati. But here's the thing, Vikings Nation. This isn't just about one game. What's happening right now, what's unfolding behind the scenes at TCO Performance Center is setting the tone for everything that comes next. Are we witnessing the birth of something special? Or are we watching our championship dreams slip away before October even arrives? The front office has been busy, busier than most fans realize. Phone calls are being made, contracts are being signed, and decisions that seemed impossible just 48 hours ago are suddenly becoming our new reality. And I'm not talking about small moves here, Purple Faithful. These are the kinds of roster changes that define seasons. You want to know what's really got me fired up? It's not just what's happening, it's how it's happening. The timing, the strategy, the way Kevin O'Connell and this coaching staff are handling adversity. This is either going to be the story we tell our grandkids about how the Vikings turned their season around, or it's going to be the cautionary tale of what happens when desperation meets poor decision-making. So before I reveal exactly what's going down in Minneapolis, I need you to do the things for me. First, smash that like button if you're ready for some serious Vikings truth. Second, drop a comment and tell me, when everything seems to be falling apart, do you trust this coaching staff to put the pieces back together? Because after what I'm about to tell you, you're going to have some strong opinions one way or the other. The first revelation is going to blow your mind, and it all starts with a phone call that changed everything. Alright, Purple Faithful, let's talk about the move that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. We're talking about a quarterback who was supposed to be done for the season, suddenly getting a lifeline from the most unexpected place imaginable. I'm talking about Desmond Ritter, and the fact that he's now wearing purple is about to change everything you thought you knew about our quarterback depth chart. Here's what went down behind closed doors. With J.J. McCarthy sidelined for Tutu for weeks with that brutal ankle injury, and Carson Wentz stepping into the starter role, Kevin O'Connell looked at his options and realized something terrifying. We were one hit away from having to start a rookie who's never taken an NFL snap. That's when Quesiado Fomensa picked up the phone and made the call that shocked the entire league. Ritter was sitting at home, probably thinking his 2025 season was over after getting cut by the Falcons just weeks ago. The guy went from Atlanta's backup to unemployed to suddenly being the third-string quarterback for a Vikings team that's desperately trying to salvage their playoff hopes. And here's the kicker. He knows Kevin O'Connell's system better than you might think, because they've been studying each other for years through division matchups and coaching connections. But let's talk about what this really means for our locker room dynamic. Ritter isn't just some random pickup off the street. This is a former third-round draft pick who started 13 games in the NFL, threw for over 1,800 yards, and has playoff experience. When Carson Wentz looks over his shoulder now, he's not seeing some scared rookie. He's seeing legitimate competition. The timing of this signing tells you everything about how the coaching staff views our current situation. They could have promoted someone from the practice squad. They could have gone with the safe option. But instead, they went out and grabbed a guy who can actually push Wentz to be better. That's either brilliant strategy or complete desperation, and honestly, I'm not sure which one it is yet. Here's what really gets me though. Ritter's mobility changes our entire offensive identity. We've been trying to protect Carson Wentz in the pocket like he's made of glass. But now we have a backup who can actually extend plays with his legs. Kevin O'Connell suddenly has options he didn't have 48 hours ago. And that could be the difference between winning and losing this Sunday. The question that's eating at me, Purple Faithful, is this. Did we sign Ritter because we don't trust Wentz to stay healthy? Or did we sign him because we don't trust Wentz to get the job done? Because there's a huge difference between those two scenarios. And the answer is going to tell us everything about where this season is headed. Drop a comment and let me know. Are you excited about having Ritter as insurance? Or are you worried that this signing means our coaching staff has already given up on Carson Wentz? But if you think that quarterback move was shocking, Wait until you hear what's happening with our offensive line situation. This next update is going to make you question everything. Purple Nation, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. The massive 6'5", 322-pound elephant that's been missing from our offensive line since October of last year. We're talking about Christian Darrisaw. And the latest update on his recovery is both the best and worst news you're going to hear all week. Let me paint you the picture of what we're dealing with here. Our franchise left tackle, the guy who was supposed to be protecting whoever is under center for the next decade, suffered not one but two devastating knee injuries, an ACL tear and an MCL tear that ended his 2024 season before it even got started. We're talking about injuries that have ended careers, injuries that change the entire trajectory of a player's future. But here's where it gets interesting. Vikings faithful, Christian Darrisaw isn't just any player. This is a guy who was drafted 23rd overall because our front office saw him as the cornerstone of our offensive line for years to come. The investment we made in him wasn't just financial, it was philosophical. Kevin O'Connell built his entire offensive system around having elite protection on the left side. And without Darrisaw, that system has been falling apart piece by piece. The recovery process has been nothing short of grueling. We're talking about months of rehabilitation, setbacks, small victories, and the kind of mental battles that most people can't even imagine. ACL and MCL injuries aren't just physical challenges, they mess with your head. They make you question every cut, every step, every contact situation you encounter on the field. But here's what's got me cautiously optimistic. The reports coming out of TCO Performance Center suggest that Darrisaw isn't just healing, he's getting stronger. The medical staff has been blown away by his dedication to the rehabilitation process, his attention to detail, and his determination to come back better than he was before the injuries happened. Now, let's talk about timing, because this is where things get really complicated. The Vikings are being incredibly careful with their timeline, and rightfully so. They know that rushing him back early could result in re-injury, could cost him years of his career, could turn a franchise cornerstone into a cautionary tale. But they also know that every game he misses is another game where Carson Wentz is getting pressured, another game where our running game struggles, another game where our Super Bowl window closes a little bit more. The offensive line without Darrisaw has been, let's be honest here, a disaster. We've tried different combinations, we've shuffled personnel, we've changed blocking schemes, and nothing has worked consistently. Ryan Kelly is dealing with concussion issues, our depth is questionable at best, and opposing defensive coordinators are licking their chops every time they see our protection packages on film. But here's the part that should have every Vikings fan on the edge of their seat. There are whispers, quiet conversations in the hallways, suggestions that Darrisaw might be closer to returning than anyone wants to publicly admit. I'm not saying he's suiting up this Sunday against Cincinnati, but the possibility that he could be back sooner rather than later is starting to feel real. The question that's keeping me up at night is this: when Christian Darrisaw does return, is he going to be the same dominant force that we drafted? Or are we going to be dealing with a player who's lost a step, lost confidence, lost that edge that made him special in the first place? What do you think, Purple Faithful? Are you willing to wait as long as it takes for Darrisaw to be 100%? Or do you think we need to start planning for life without our franchise left tackle? Because speaking of planning for the future, the next move our front office made is going to shock you. Vikings Nation, let me tell you about a phone call that proves Kevin O'Connell and this coaching staff understand something that most NFL teams never figure out. Loyalty works both ways. I'm talking about Cam Akers. And his return to Minneapolis is the kind of story that gives you chills and makes you believe in second chances, or in this case, third chances. Here's the backstory that most casual fans don't know. Akers wasn't just some random running back who happened to play for us. This guy was a lifeline during some of our darkest moments over the past 2 seasons. When our running game was struggling, when injuries were piling up, when we needed someone who understood Kevin O'Connell's system and could step in immediately, Cam Akers was the answer. Not once, not twice, but now for the 3rd time in 3 years. But let's talk about where he's been recently, because this signing becomes even more impressive when you understand the journey. Akers spent time with the New Orleans Saints, went through their training camp, competed for a roster spot, and ultimately got cut when they decided to go in a different direction. Most players would have been devastated, would have started making phone calls to agents, would have been wondering if their NFL career was over, Instead, Akers stayed ready. He kept training, kept his body in game shape, and kept believing that the right opportunity would come along. And when Aaron Jones went down with that hamstring injury that landed him on injured reserve, guess whose phone started ringing? The beauty of this signing isn't just about filling a roster spot. It's about bringing in someone who already knows the playbook, already has chemistry with the offensive line, already understands what Kevin O'Connell expects from his running backs. In a league where it typically takes weeks or even months for new players to get up to speed, Akers can literally walk into practice tomorrow and run every single play in our offensive system. But here's what really gets me fired up about this move. It shows that Kevin O'Connell values character and reliability over flash and potential. Akers isn't the fastest guy. He's not the most explosive player. But he's proven over and over again that when the Vikings need him, he shows up and does his job. That kind of consistency is worth its weight in gold, especially when you're dealing with the injury crisis we're facing right now. The timing couldn't be more perfect either. With Aaron Jones sidelined for at least 4 games, Jordan Mason stepping into the primary role, and our depth chart looking thinner than anyone wants to admit, having a veteran presence like Akers in the backfield gives Carson Wentz and the offensive line confidence they desperately need. What's really impressive is how this signing happened so quickly. Most NFL transactions take days of negotiations, medical examinations, contract discussions. But the Vikings had Akers signed and ready to go within hours of Aaron Jones hitting injured reserve. That tells you everything about the mutual respect between player and organization. Here's the part that should make every Vikings fan smile. Akers genuinely loves being in Minneapolis. This isn't just business for him, it's personal. He's talked about how much he enjoys the culture Kevin O'Connell has built, how much he respects the way the organization treats its players, and how excited he gets about contributing to something special. The question is, Purple faithful, can lightning strike 3 times? Can Cam Akers once again be the spark that ignites our running game at exactly the moment when we need it most? Or are we asking too much from a guy who's been bouncing around the league? Let me know in the comments. Are you excited about the Akers reunion? Or do you think we should have looked for a different solution to our running back crisis? But if you think the Cam Akers signing was the biggest news, wait until you hear what Kevin O'Connell had to say about our starting quarterback. Purple Nation, I need to tell you about a conversation that happened behind closed doors this week. A conversation that might just change everything you think you know about Carson Wentz and his role in this team's future. We're talking about Kevin O'Connell and the way he's been talking about Carson Wentz during practice this week. And folks, this isn't your typical coach speak. This is something different. Something that suggests our head coach sees something in Wentz that maybe the rest of us have been missing. Let me set the scene for you. After J.J. McCarthy went down with that ankle injury, there was this moment of uncertainty, this feeling that maybe our season was starting to slip away before it even really began. But instead of panic, instead of desperation, Kevin O'Connell stepped to the podium and started talking about Carson Wentz with the kind of confidence and enthusiasm that made everyone in that room sit up and take notice. O'Connell specifically praised Wentz's command presence during practice, the way he takes control of the huddle, the way he communicates with receivers, the way he handles pressure situations. But here's what really caught my attention. He talked about Wentz's football intelligence, his ability to read defenses, his understanding of situational football that only comes from years of NFL experience. This isn't just a coach trying to pump up his backup quarterback for the media. This is Kevin O'Connell genuinely excited about what Carson Wentz brings to this offense. And when you think about it, that makes perfect sense. Wentz has started games for 6 different NFL teams. He's seen every defensive scheme imaginable. He's been in pressure situations that would break most players. But let's dig deeper into what O'Connell is really saying here. When he talks about Wentz's preparation, he's not just talking about studying film. He's talking about a quarterback who understands the nuances of Kevin O'Connell's system, who can make the kind of pre-snap adjustments that separate good quarterbacks from great ones. The chemistry between O'Connell and Wentz has been building all season. Even when Wentz was supposedly just a backup, they've been working together on timing, on route concepts, on red zone packages. And now that Wentz is getting first-team reps, all of that preparation is starting to pay off in ways that have the coaching staff genuinely optimistic. Here's what really gets me fired up about O'Connell's comments. He's not making excuses for Wentz. He's not lowering expectations. He's actually raising them. He's talking about Wentz like he expects him to come in and not just manage games, but actually elevate the offense, actually make plays that help us win football games. The leadership aspect is something that can't be taught or faked. When Carson Wentz walks into that huddle, he's not some nervous backup hoping not to mess up. He's a veteran quarterback who's been in Super Bowl conversations, who's carried teams on his shoulders, who knows what it takes to win at the highest level. But here's the part that should make every Vikings fan cautiously optimistic. O'Connell is talking about specific improvements he's seen in Wentz's game: better pocket presence, quicker decision-making, improved chemistry with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. These aren't vague compliments. These are concrete observations from a coach who knows what it takes to succeed in this league. The question that's eating at me, Purple Faithful, is this: is Kevin O'Connell seeing something that we've all missed about Carson Wentz? Or is he just being a good coach and supporting his players publicly, while privately hoping for the best? What do you think? Are you buying into O'Connell's confidence in Carson Wentz? Or do you think he's just saying the right things to keep everyone calm? While our season hangs in the balance, drop your thoughts in the comments, because what I'm about to tell you next, it's going to make you question everything we think we know about hope and desperation in professional football. Vikings Nation, as I sit here putting together all these pieces, all these moves, all these decisions that have happened in just the last 48 hours, I can't help but ask myself the question that every Purple Faithful fan is probably asking right now. What does all of this really mean? Are we watching a coaching staff and front office that's desperately trying to patch holes in a sinking ship? Or are we witnessing the kind of strategic, calculated moves that championship teams make when adversity strikes? Because honestly, the line between genius and desperation in the NFL is thinner than most people realize. Think about it for a second. We've signed a quarterback who was unemployed just days ago. We brought back a running back for the third time in 3 years. We're hoping and praying that our franchise left tackle can return from devastating knee injuries. And we're putting all our faith in a backup quarterback who's bounced around more NFL cities than a traveling salesman from the outside. That might look like chaos. It might look like an organization that doesn't have a plan. That's just throwing solutions at the wall and hoping something sticks. But from the inside, from Kevin O'Connell's perspective, these might be exactly the kinds of moves that define championship seasons. Here's what I keep coming back to. Every single one of these decisions shows character. Bringing back Akers shows loyalty. Signing Desmond Ritter shows preparation. Being patient with Darrisaw shows wisdom. Believing in Carson Wentz shows faith. And in a league where most teams would panic, where most organizations would make desperate trades or panic signings, the Vikings are staying true to their principles while still being aggressive about solving problems. But let's be real for a minute, Purple Faithful. This Sunday against Cincinnati isn't just another game. This is where we find out if all of these moves, all of these decisions, all of this faith in backup plans and second chances actually translates to wins on the football field. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. The beauty of what's happening right now is that it's authentic. These aren't marquee signings designed to sell tickets or generate headlines. These are football moves made by football people for football reasons. And sometimes, those are the moves that end up making the biggest difference. What scares me is the same thing that excites me. We're about to find out who we really are as a team. Are we resilient enough to overcome injuries? Are we deep enough to handle adversity? Are we well coached enough to maximize the talent we have instead of dwelling on the talent we've lost? The next few weeks are going to tell us everything we need to know about this Vikings team, about Kevin O'Connell as a head coach, about Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah as a general manager, and about our chances of making the playoffs in what's turning out to be one of the most competitive seasons in recent memory. So here's what I need from you, Purple Faithful. If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening with our team, smash that like button and let me know. If you've got thoughts about any of these moves, drop them in the comments because I read every single one. And if you want to stay on top of every Vikings update, every rumor, every move that could impact our season, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. Because here's my promise to you. This season is going to be wild, it's going to be unpredictable, and it's going to test everything we believe about this team. But one thing I know for sure, we're going to ride this roller coaster together, and we're going to find out what we're really made of.